Hi and welcome to Leitrim Daily. My name is Breifne Earley and you are listening to episode 122 of the podcast. It is the sports preview show, and this weekend we are a little bit quieter on the sporting front, so we're taking the opportunity to have a look back at the year for Leitrim GAA now that all the adult competitions have effectively finished after last weekend's Connacht Club Championship results. Declan Bohan will be joining me. He's in studio with me. He'll be joining me in a couple of minutes to talk about all of the action. And it's been a really, really good year for Leitrim GAA. We'll also be catching up later in the show with Sean Gallagher of Manor Rangers ahead of their Sligo Leitrim Superleague clash with Cliffney Grange on Sunday morning. Cillian McGloin, inter-county footballer, will also be joining us to talk about this year and last year's Under-20 Club Football Championship, which kicks off this week. Of course, he plays for Melvin Gaels and was joint captain of the winning side in last year's A Championship. But our attention turns to Declan Bohan, who's going to join me now to talk about what's been a pretty remarkable year for Leitrim on and off the pitch. Declan, welcome to our little studio here.
Thanks very much, Breifne, and I'd like to take the opportunity to wish you the very best of luck with your home base, if you like to call it now. More often than not, I've seen you out and about, and taking phone calls from you. But it's nice to get to see where it all actually happens. You know,
this is where the magic happens. Absolutely, Declan. As you said, you've been on the show from pretty much the first week when we set it up, and we probably spoke to you less and less as we've got more established and we've kind of had loads more content and people on the show. So we wanted to come in and check in with you, obviously Public Relations Officer for Leitrim GAA, and tell us a bit about the year. First of all, in a sporting context, we started off really with the appointment of Terry Hyland. He came in, Division 4 in the league as most years for the last decade or so, and everything just kind of caught fire from February on.
Yeah, I suppose there would have been a huge degree of excitement, if you like, that we had attracted a manager of the caliber of Terry Hyland to the job, and he brought with him a very detailed and experienced management team. So they set about their business from early stages and sorted out a panel, and I suppose the signs of what were to come were probably evident the very first day we took on Mayo in the FPG League on the first Sunday in January. And while we were defeated that day, albeit in the first ever penalty shootout that took place in Connacht, I believe, there were good signs there. There just seemed to be something that might happen. And of course, we headed into our Division 4 League campaign, as we have in every other year, with a lot of hope and expectation and whatnot. And from day one, it appeared as if, this may happen. We won our first game and we went to Wicklow in the second game and we got a result. And, it just seemed to take off from that. And week on week, result on result, suddenly we were the story. We were beginning to become the story of the 2018, sorry.
No,
2019, I was right. It's hard to keep up with the years, but the 2019 Alliance League. And then eventually it came to a situation whereby, because of the combination of results and the combination of teams and the fact that we hadn't played Derry, we were due to play them in the last round, it came to that crunch game with London in Avantcard Park Sean, which effectively brought the eyes of the nation, if you like, on Leitrim footballers, because we were about to do something that hadn't been done in the previous 11 seasons. And thankfully it did happen, and even if it was a nervous display and all that type of thing, we got over the line and we were promoted and reached the league final with 2 games to spare, which was something that we really wouldn't have anticipated heading into the competition.
I think for me, and I was at a couple of those early games, funny enough, I missed the later ones when all the hype was up, but I was at the first couple of games where at half-time or early in the second half, we found ourselves up to 4 or 5 or 6 points behind. And it was the manner in which the team just came back into those games, kept chipping away, never looked like they were beaten, which previous Leitrim teams may have done at times. And they just powered back to win, usually by a point or 2 at most, for those first couple of games.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. With the exception, I suppose, of the first game, which we won, which was our most comfortable victory, as it turned out. A lot of the games, in fact, did have that pattern, and our most crucial results, if you like, in getting to the stage of qualifying and winning the promotion did come in those last 10, 15 minutes, last 5 minutes in case. We were I think we were 4 points down in Wicklow with only a number of minutes to go, and we ended up winning the game, not comfortably, but we won it well in the end. And we had that, that massive win, it has to be said, against Limerick and Newcastle West when that was the proverbial do or die with them, because it effectively not quite knocked them out of the competition, but it really set them back. And, it just appeared at that time as if there was, as you said, a tremendous belief among the group of players that yes, we have control of our own destiny, and they saw it through, and we got the promotion. And of course, then obviously, we had the great day out in Croke Park in the league final, and unfortunately we didn't win it, but it was a tremendous Leitrim day, and it was tremendous to bring the amount of supporters that we did to Croke Park. And I suppose the big prize, to be honest with you, Breifne, was getting to Division 3.
I think it's fair to say that Derry aren't really a Division 4 team either.
Yeah, I think most people looking at it from the outside, outside of Leitrim, outside of Derry, outside of our own borders, would say, Derry shouldn't be there. They shouldn't have been there. And they won all their games and they got back up, including 2 victories over us in the last game and the league final. And the reality of it is they're going to be starting opposition in Division 3 for us again this year, So sometimes the league can throw up that type of situation. I suppose facing into the 2020 league, we have to face Derry, but we also have to face Cork, who are a Super 8 team. So sometimes leagues will throw teams into divisions that perhaps they shouldn't be in.
I have memories of playing Kerry down in was it in Longford Cup in Keena?
Up in Keena. I think I'm going back
2001 or 2002 maybe.
The start of 2002, it was actually from memory, it was Declan Rowley's first game as Leitrim team manager, and that time the league was a different setup. We had Division 1A, 1B and 2A and 2B, and it's sort of a mixed up thing, if you like. The late Paddy O'Shea was in charge of Kerry that time, and it was Kerry were, I suppose, they were coming on the back.
They beat us fairly soundly.
They did really.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
Well, as you mentioned, Derry away, Cork at home, and Longford away. The first 3 games in the National League next year. Longford away won't hold much fear for Leitrim, but the other 2 we could have looked for a nicer start to the league season.
Yeah, I suppose Breifne, when you do make the step up and go into Division 3, there's no such thing as an easy game. But there are probably some that we'll say relatively more manageable than others. And, I suppose it would have to be said Cork are the outstanding favourites to go forward. The likelihood is that, with particularly the division that's taken place at the end of this year's incoming league with qualification for Tier 1 and Tier 2, if you like, Cork will want to get out of there as quickly as possible. So I suppose, the fact that we have them at home is a bonus. The last time they came to Park Sean, ironically, back in, I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly the year, but it's probably going back to just over 20 years ago we actually defeated them, but it'll be an interesting start to the league. There are 3 games, I think, and I can't give you the correct order. There are 3 games coming up after that are probably in our territory, starting with the Longford game in Pearse Park, and they will be the ones that will set us up. We'll have to be targeting the middle group of games, to get points running into the concluding stages.
It does mean as well that on a league table you can kind of catch people up when they have to go and play Derry and Cork later on in the process. So it'll be interesting to see how that all develops. We'll talk about hurling for a moment, and I know technically that's its own board, but it does come under your umbrella as well. What a year for Leitrim hurling in terms of Lory Meagher's success, a couple of All-Stars last weekend, and also the under-17s winning the Celtic Challenge. It really is a rising tide for the small balls version of Gaelic games in the county. Yeah,
there's been a lot of very positive strides have been made in hurling and over the last number of years. And I suppose with all the debate that's around there out there about Tier 1 and Tier 2, hurling has got 4, in fact you could say 5 tiers nearly at this stage, 5 tiers, and it has suited, we'll say, what would be considered less strong counties, we'll call it. I don't like using the word weaker counties. So the less strong counties are in a competition of their own. And 2 years ago, we were in the Lory Meagher Cup final. It was great to get our hurlers to Croke Park. Last year, they were unlucky to be defeated in extra time in a league final over in Ballyconnell versus Lancashire. And this year, we got to the Lory Meagher Cup, as you've pointed out. And it was a brilliant, brilliant result for the hurlers to beat the same Lancashire team, if you like, this time after extra time also. So the tides were turned. And a tremendous result for everybody that was involved in it, from players to team management. and all of the people that have been associated with it over a long number of years, keeping the game going when it was more fashionable maybe to just step away from it. There are a number of people that, you know, that have really, really kept the show on the road. And I think in terms of Martin Caniff, who has been involved in all of that situation right up to and including winning the Lory Meagher Cup as team manager this year. And then you mentioned the under-17s, because, you know, no system will survive without having some, we'll say, feed-in system, if you like to call it, or conveyor belt. And the under-17s this year won their Celtic Challenge in their division. Tremendous talent in that group, I'd have to say. That game was streamed live, and brilliant young lads coming through who will be chomping at the bit to play senior hurling, I'm sure, when their time comes. So all in all, yeah, great stuff for the hurlers, and you know, it's become fashionable, very fashionable game to play now.
No, and it's great to see it becoming an actual thing where Manor this year, when they were preparing for their county final, had only one player involved with the senior footballers that was also with the senior hurlers. So there is a standalone club ethos there, both in Manor and in Carrick over the last few years. Yeah,
and I suppose the other side of it, I suppose one of the downsides, if you like, of the hurling at club level has been the demise of, we'll say, two clubs. The Gortletcher club hasn't featured in the last number of years, and Ballinamore the similar. So we're just down to one championship match, and a lot of the players who would have formerly, if you like, featured with Ballinamore or featured with Gortletcher are now playing with Carrick. So Carrick is it's almost like as if
South
it's
Leitrim
North Leitrim versus South Leitrim in a hurling championship final, and you know, that brings the best players together. The downside of that is that we don't really have any internal competition in relation to that. But those that are serious about it, and they are very serious about it in those two areas, they play in competitions, league competitions across border in Roscommon and Longford, and you know, that type of thing, which keeps them occupied, if you like, and keeps them developing. You know?
You mentioned Martin Caniff, and I suppose I have to ask, it's a very unfortunate story in the back page of the Leitrim Observer this week about he has resigned his position, or will have resigned his position at the end of the season, if that's, I'm not sure the exact dates on it. But he feels that he has been given no choice but to do that. How disappointing is that from a county board point of view for someone who's been so intrinsically involved with the development of hurling over the last number of decades?
Yeah, Martin has been involved in hurling promotion, working away at the coalface for all of his time, you could say, since he came here into Leitrim, and that's not years ago, that's decades. That's decades. You can quantify that, and has been a brilliant servant to Leitrim hurling, and in fact in Carrick as well. In Carrick, his own area, in both promoting and cajoling and encouraging, and you know, doing his best to ensure that Carrick hurling was represented, and then certainly that Leitrim was represented in all of the national competitions. And you know, it is unfortunate the events that have unfolded, and I suppose the best thing I could say about it is that it could have been handled a lot better. That's the reality, and it has just been very disappointing for Martin that a year that brought such glory has, unfortunately for him, he's found himself in a position that he's had to resign his position, and he feels strongly that was his only way, if you like, to conclude it, and it's regrettable. But you know, I'm sure there are lessons to be learned around how any, I wouldn't say a similar situation that we'd like to deal with, or anybody would like to deal with in the future, but you know, that there are lessons there in Manor and how things can be handled better.
Let's leave the club competitions, because we're running out of time here in our conversation. We have talked about the club competitions so much on the show. I'd like to jump ahead to another really positive thing that happened in the last couple of months in the county in terms of Gaelic games, and that is the official opening of the Centre of Excellence in Annaduff. Of course, it was open and used, but the really big, finished off, everything looking spick and span, and a great day in Annaduff with the president of the GAA and all the people who had helped make it a reality. It was a great day to be proud of what a county can do when they come together like that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's the Centre of Excellence now, and it is about location as well, because location is very important in terms of being on the N4, and you know, it's passed by hundreds, I suppose you could say thousands of people per day. It really has been finished off, if you like, beyond our wildest dreams. It's, the brochures, the projections, the development, all the architecture work that would have been done on that on paper only would have given us a facade that perhaps would have looked like that. And you'd have thought, I suppose, over the last number of years passing by there, how will we ever get front of house finished off to what it says on the tin? And the reality of it is that has happened, and it's a fantastic facility. At the back, obviously, is the most important area because that's where the action takes place. But it's very impressive, we'd have to say, and we're very proud of how it finished. But it would have to pay tribute to the amount of people who rode in behind the push for the Leitrim Wall competition, which turned into, or I shouldn't say competition, the Leitrim Wall fundraising promotion, which really, if you like, reached its expectations, but certainly exceeded the expectations of many in terms of the money that was raised on it, that has brought it to its conclusion and brought it to be finished to what people would have wanted from day one, was something that we can be proud of. And it was a great day, as you said, for Leitrim to show what we can do to push ourselves forward.
We'll finish up with a little bit of housekeeping. And recently, the County Board or Leitrim GAA advertised 2 positions, under 20 manager, under 17 manager. What's the latest update on that? Well,
the update on that, I suppose, Breifne, is that there is no update to give other than to tell you that it's in a process at the moment. As you know, there were positions were advertised, and there were applications for it, if you like to put it that way, and it's in process and it's moving forward.
Any timelines on that, or any?
I couldn't give you an exact timeline, to be honest with you. I would expect that the position will be finalised in advance, perhaps the end of the month.
Okay. In terms of next month's, obviously, annual convention, and I know there's a bit of change ahead because 4 or 5 of the committee, yourself included, are obliged to move on from the role you're in on the committee because of the 5-year rule, which, for the benefit of listeners who might not be familiar with it, is no officer is allowed to hold the same position for longer than 5 consecutive terms or years. So you might give us a list of who that actually affects this year.
Well, this is a year, as you pointed out, a big change, because Chairman Terence Boyle and the Secretary, Tractor Riley, the Assistant Secretary, John Keenan, and myself as PRO have all reached the end of our 5-year term, and we're not, as you pointed out, allowed. We have to vacate the position, and those positions effectively are while they're up for grabs any year, this year they have to be taken by new people, if you like. And also, I understand that the coaching officer is vacating his position this year, and the development officer. So it's quite there's going to be quite a shake-up, if you like, in terms of the management committee of Leitrim GAA going forward. But that's positive, and that's a good thing. And the nomination papers have been out there with the clubs for the last 3 weeks at least, I'd say, and I think they're due to be returned by next Monday night. So if there are any aspiring people out there who would like to get involved and feel that they have something positive to offer, and I'm sure there are quite a lot of vibrant young people out there that have lots to offer, then the advice I would say give them is to contact their club and seek a nomination through their club to be put forward. And Leitrim GAA would be very welcoming towards new people getting involved.
Yeah, I know. I have personal experience of it from almost 20 years ago. And 20 years ago this month, I think actually my name would have gone forward as an 18-year-old.
Oh my God, compared to those 2 decades.
I know, it's mad. But it was a great experience, and I would recommend it to anyone who's interested and feels they have something to give, to put their name in the hat. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of yourself or any of those people on the board. They can change position. They just have to leave the one that they're currently in. Because obviously the people who are leaving, yourself included, have a depth of knowledge and experience in a variety of roles on a committee level.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to say, Breifne, that obviously, number one, just because you're leaving the position doesn't necessarily mean that somebody might choose to nominate you for another position. And that's always been the case. And that could have happened in any given year that you could be nominated for an alternative position. It's not like as if you're chained to it for 5 years when you take it on or anything else like that. So, the reality of it is that, as I said, the nomination papers are out. And what I can guarantee you is that the shape of Leitrim GAA Management Committee naturally, because of the positions having to change, will change. There will be a change in the dynamic of Leitrim GAA's executive going forward.
It must be seen as a positive, though, and a good governance practice to keep that fresh blood coming through, even if it's the same faces in different roles. Just to have that kind of sprinkling every couple of years really must help the ideas factory that is the county board.
Yeah, well, I suppose, all organisations probably do. They do change around. They're given different portfolios, if you like, in organisations, given different sense of responsibility. And you can be too long in a particular position as well. And I suppose the idea of the 5-year rule when it was brought in was to, I won't say cleanse out committees or anything else like that, but at that time that it was brought in back in 2000, I think it came in 2002 or 3 or thereabouts, there were in various county committees people who had held positions for not just 5 years, but maybe 2 decades or a decade plus. And
you don't have to go too far either for that.
No, you don't. No. And that's not a healthy situation either, because even in a club setup, people who have longevity in positions, it's not good for the volunteer ethos that a person would hold the same position for too long, because effectively it nearly frightens off somebody from taking on something that they might feel that has been the preserve of somebody for so long that they might feel that I might never be able to do that.
Absolutely. So the nominations close on Monday and the convention itself takes place on the
15th, Sunday the 15th of December.
And of course, all the clubs represented will be at that as well. Declan, thank you so much. I can only wish you the very best of luck in whatever role you may take on in either club or county or in a retirement form after the convention on the 15th of December. You mentioned the chairperson's role was open. Will you be putting your name forward for that?
I know it's open, and I did say that. I made that very clear that it was open, and I can also make it very clear to you that you're not talking to the next chairperson of Leitrim GAA.
Well, listen, on that note, thank you so much for popping into us, Declan, and the very best of luck for whatever next year holds for you. I'm knowing you won't be too far from a Gaelic pitch at some way, shape or form.
Thanks very much, Breifne, and I'd like to obviously thank you at this moment in time, seeing as this is our last conversation, we'd say, for 2019 in terms of competitions and all that went by. I'd have to really say, from Leitrim GAA's point of view, you've been a breath of fresh air, it has to be said. Your podcasts have gone down tremendously well. The variety of stuff that you put out there, the amount of effort that you've made to contact players involved with clubs and introduce new people from new clubs to this type of promotion, if you like, which is great for them and it's great for Leitrim GAA and great for their clubs. And I'd like to pay a special tribute to you and thank you very much for that amount of coverage we got over the past year.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for all your help in doing that as well.
All right, Breifne, thank you.
So this weekend sees a number of big games in Gaelic games around the county, and first one up is the under-16 county team in action against Offaly in the Faithful Fields at 2 p.m. on Saturday in the Father Manning Cup. It's the last game of the round-robin stage, and with 2 defeats so far, Leitrim will most likely be in one of 3rd or 4th place depending on the results at the weekend. There will be a knockout stage as all 4 teams progress to play against the teams at the same level in all the other groups in the competition. So Leitrim will face a semi-final or quarter-final at that level that they finish up at in this division, proceeding to finals, all of which take place on the one day. It's a really, really big festival of underage football and well worth getting involved in and really developing players for the future in County Leitrim. Some exciting talents coming through, despite the results not maybe being what people would like. But to run Roscommon and Meath close in the last couple of weekends is a big achievement for underage Leitrim teams. So well done to Mark Hesslin and his teams over the last 2 weekends. That game is in the Faithful County Grounds in Offaly on Saturday afternoon. There's also a Division 2 under-15 league game taking place. Leitrim Gaels and St. Joseph's do battle in that particular match on Saturday afternoon also. Sunday sees the under-20 championship take place, and we'll talk about that with Cillian McGloin later in the show. In terms of soccer, Clifton Celtic are the hosts for Manor Rangers as they play on Sunday morning at 11 a.m. in the Sligo venue, while Carrick Town face Arrow Harps. That trip to Arrow Harps and for their game in the Premier League on Sunday morning also. In athletics, the Connacht Juvenile Cross Country takes place on Sunday at 12 noon in Ballina. We're going to take a little closer look at the soccer and head north to Manor Rangers, where the assistant manager of the first team there is Sean Gallagher, and he's going to tell me about their season so far and their upcoming league games against Clifton Celtic this week and Strand Celtic the following week. Now on Sunday morning in the Sligo Leitrim Superleague, Manor Rangers are in action and they travel to Clifton Celtic to play their fifth league game of the season. The first four have gone pretty well, 3 wins and a draw, and I'm joined by Sean Gallagher of their first team, the assistant manager of their first team, to talk about how the season is progressing for the North Leitrim side. Welcome to the show, Sean.
Good evening, Breifne. How are you?
I'm excellent. Listen, Sean, tell us a bit about how the season has gone for you so far. It seems to be going good.
Yeah, we kind of set expectations of where we wanted to be in the league, I suppose, this early stage. With the introduction of some new talent that have come up through the underage system and the re-emerging of old players that we would have for a number of years. And I suppose the combination of the two have stead us fast. They, I suppose, put ourselves in as one of the, I suppose, contenders for the Super League crown. It's a crown that, unfortunately, we've never had the honours in. We've won, but it's one that we're keen to try and aim to win this season.
Yeah, some of the big players, and they're just a place or two ahead of you in the league at the moment. Carton and Carberry are in there as well, unbeaten so far this year. You have to, I suppose, take them on to have a chance of challenging for that title. What is the prognosis for those games this year?
I suppose the same as every year. Like, we look to instill, a philosophy that, you need to know how to play against these teams and be smart, and respect them first and foremost, because Carberry are a team that are known throughout the land of Ireland, not alone Sligo Leitrims. So to take them on, everything has to be, to perfection, and it's something that we aim and strive to do to every season. I suppose Carton are unknown. They're a new side to the league this year. They've had a great start, no more than ourselves, and it'll be a keen battle. We look forward to having the up and coming weeks to see and pit our wits against a new team to the league.
This week, Sunday morning, you play Clifton Celtic. How much do you know about them, or do teams tend to change from year to year?
Yeah, Clifton again are a team that re-emerged into the Super League this year. We actually played them not too long ago. I think it was our second game of the season in the B Park. I have to say they're a very good team to watch. Like to play a bit of football, it's not just end to end to put the ball on the ground and play no more than ourselves. So yeah, I'd be expecting a tough battle down there, and we'll have to work hard and dig out a result if we want to bring 3 points back up to Manorhamilton. Let's
rewind a little bit to the FAI Cup, the Junior Cup, and a disappointing result against Roscommon side, Ballahadreen. How did that game, how did you manage to lose a 2-goal advantage to unfortunately lose by the odd goal in 7? Seems to be an unfortunate way to have the game finish up.
I suppose, as I touched on there earlier, Breifne, we have bedded in a lot of young talent into the team this year. We started off with a flyer, went 2-0 up, 2 goals early on in the game. Players like Carl Logue, O'Connell, Darren Gilmartin and Darren Giblin would be names to mention. Young lads that come in and weren't out of their depth in any means or shape. Just, I suppose, inexperience of how to weather a storm and see out the period of dominance. And, I suppose they brought the 2 goals back, and it kind of just, it wasn't meant to be that day. I suppose one thing I would touch on is, at the start of every year, we kind of a mix of youth and old, as other sports kind of take away some of our mainstays for the season. So, it's good in a way to see what talent you have about when they're not there. But I suppose it was in a disappointing result, from being 2 goals up, but you take it on the chin, and we hope to bring that into the Connacht Cup in a few weeks' time and use it as a flip side to make sure that we maintain our stance in that cup and get to the latter stages of the competition.
In terms of that clash with other sports, obviously Glencar Manor have been reaching finals across hurling and football at all levels, at adult level. How much has that impacted on your availability of players?
It would, to a certain extent. Like, there'd be certain lads that would just play the game of soccer, and obviously then the locality that we live in, Manorhamilton, would have a lot of lads that would be across a number of different sports. So like, it's something, that you give with one hand and you take with the other. There's the end of our season when we're going well and strong and hopefully reaching finals, and the Gaelic do it to understand and to allow the players to stay with us. And we have to respect them when they're coming to the accumulation of their season, and give them the chance to go and win the titles, which it was great to see them doing this year. But the other side of that is we get a chance to see what youth is available. I've touched a few names there, the likes of Carl Logue, the two Darrens and Jack that we brought into the first team this year, and they're not out of their depth, and it's great to see it, because you can't always be dependent on the same heads every year, and it's great to bring new blood into it, because it freshens it up, and it gives competition for places and all the rest. So there's pros and cons with it, but like, I suppose if you look at our stance in the league this year, we're fit the bottom of our own back. When you lose players, you can lose players from other scenarios as well, injuries and work commitments and whatever. So we're in a good place as the season starts.
You might explain, for the benefit of listeners who aren't that familiar with how the local sport works here in terms of soccer. Obviously, there's the Sligo Leitrim Superleague, the Connacht Cup, and the FAI Junior Cup, and maybe one or two other tournaments thrown in there as well. Can you tell us how they work and the importance of each in terms of the club at the start of the season?
Yeah, well, I suppose like the league is its own, like, it's the bread and butter that you play for every week throughout the year, and that competition is September through to May. Then you would also have an internal cup competition within Sligo Leitrim, would be known as the Radisson Blue. I think actually changed to the Glasshouse Cup this year. My apologies about that. And that's a competition that would, link in something similar to your FA Cup would do in the Premiership in England. It would be the back end of the season. Your FAI Junior Cup would nearly run incoherent with your senior league, on the basis that it's a competition that you play within your locality for the first couple of rounds, and then you go in the Connacht, and as you progress through the rounds, you could end up playing anywhere across the nation of Ireland. The Connacht Cup then would be a competition that starts just before Christmas, and again runs right up into the back end of the season, and that would be playing again teams from any area within the Connacht setup. So that would be leagues outside of Sligo Leitrim that you could play, or you could be drawn within a team within the Sligo Leitrim. It depends the way the draw is done.
Which means that I suppose you have plenty of opportunities to aim for silverware throughout the season, and almost the opportunities they bring. Obviously, the last four in the FAI Junior Cup qualify for the senior FAI Cup. So that route to the Aviva Stadium, while unlikely, is still a reality for some clubs at the start of the season.
Oh, it is, and we're in fairness, we've got to the last 32, I think last 16 as a senior club in years gone by. If the season falls right for you and everything works in sync, it can be a reality. I suppose the underlying factor is you have to be realistic and say, what's the chances of you winning an FAI Cup? Everything has to be pristine to do so. The chances of a Connacht Cup, are that little bit more realistic. On any day, we know ourselves how good we can be in seasons not too far past. We bet the likes of Westport United, who would be a very, very well-renowned club within the Connacht setup, and we bet them comfortably. Last year, I'll give you an example. We played St. Michael's, who went on to win the FAI Junior Cup this year. We only lost by a goal to them, 2-1. And the funny thing about it was, I think we were one of, two clubs along the way before they won the FAI Junior title that actually scored against them.
Yeah, of course, St. Michael's from Tipperary as well. I think the former club of Shane Long, if I'm not mistaken.
You're correct, yeah.
That's kind of the shoulders you're rubbing when you're playing at that level. Sean, thanks so much for joining us. The very best of luck against Cliffany this Sunday, and then in your next two home games as well against Strand Celtic and Renmore of Galway in the Connacht Cup. That we obviously just spent a few moments talking about. So it's looked like it's going to be a pretty good season for you. 10 points from the first 4 games, unbeaten so far this year. Hopefully you can keep that going, and we'll be chatting to you as the season progresses, yourself or Thomas McDonald, the manager. I know he's away on holidays this week, and maybe Dave Cummins as well. We'll keep in touch with you and keep an eye as the season progresses. The very best of luck on Sunday.
That's excellent. Thanks very much.
Now, we mentioned earlier in the programme about the Under-20 Championship, which kicks off this weekend. And we are now joined by County star Cillian McGloin to talk about, first of all, being the captain of the winning side last year, but also the preparations for this year's championship. Cillian, welcome to the show.
Well, how's it going now, Breifne?
Not too bad at all. It's been a while since we spoke to you after the senior quarter-final victory over St. Mary's in Ballinamore, I believe it was, back in the day.
Yeah.
How has your season been progressing? Obviously, the semi-final defeat came and went. How have you managed to keep on board over the last couple of weeks with this Under-20 Championship in mind?
Yeah, well, we got knocked out there against Manor. Was it the end of September? I'm not too sure, anyways, but I haven't really stopped, to be honest, because we went straight into Under-20 training, I think, the following week, and then I obviously playing a bit with the college in IT Sligo. So I haven't really stopped since then. But no, I've progressed on. Getting back from injury, over the summer I've been carrying niggles and that. So I'm just coming good now.
Of course, you won this Under-20 Championship last year up in Melvin Gaels. How important is this on the calendar to lads your age? Is it just a distraction maybe from schools or colleges football and club football, or do you look forward to it?
I know, like I know in my own club, like a lot of the boys here take football very seriously. Any competition, like we go out to win, and I think I've a lot of the boys like would have the same mindset, and like it's another competition to win. It's you don't enter it just to take part, and that'd be the mindset in our club, anyways. Yeah.
Talk us through last year's final. Being the captain on a day like that is always a big honour.
Yeah, obviously, like representing your club and captaining them to a championship it's always a big honour. It's always a great feeling afterwards, especially winning. It was obviously a team effort, and we had a great group of lads there, and we have a good group of lads as well this year. I know we're going to be missing 4 or 5 top footballers from the team that won last year, which will leave us, not as well equipped going into games. But I think we do have enough there to push it on again this year.
In terms of the actual draw, 2 quarterfinals this weekend, yourselves versus McDermott the Gaels, which is Kiltubbard and Ballinamore, and St. Mary's host St. Manakins. Those quarterfinals, with the winner of your game progressing to play Fina and the winner of the other quarterfinal going on to play Glencar Manor. Who do you see as the biggest threats in this competition to yourselves regaining the title?
Well, it's a hard one to call because I missed. It's this age group we missed at minor level because they changed to under 17. So we jumped a grade there. So the last time we would have played any of these teams would have been at under 16. So it's hard to know how other teams progressed and how we progressed. Like this is the first time now we're going to be playing together in 3 or 4 years. So it's a difficult one to call. Obviously, like you have teams like Fina and St. Manakins are always there or thereabouts, and even that St. Mary's team that was in, they played the Connacht minor game there last week. Yeah, so they'll be strong as well. So and McDermott the Gaels even, like that's an amalgamation. So, but it's hard to know at the same time because we haven't played this age group in a few years. Of
course, there is also a B grade at this age group, and that's St. Bridget's versus Dromahair and Drumkieran versus St. Joseph's. Both of those games taking place over the weekend as well. They're straight semi-finals with the winners progressing to a final. In terms of the competition and where it fits in the calendar, do you really want to be playing football at this point of the season, November coming into, I suppose, late November, early December?
Well, like it's a tricky, like obviously I love playing football and you always want to play games no matter what time of the year it is, but it's just tricky in terms of like the under 20 grade is kind of targeted at boys that are around in college and that, and it's just hard to get them home during the week for training, hard to organise challenge games. There's always kind of something in the way. just for numbers wise and that. So it's tricky that kind of way. But obviously, like, lads just want to play football, and that's the kind of bottom line of it. But having to work around college schedules and that, it's hard.
Yeah. Is there any bit of a leftovers from the senior championship? Do you want to go and maybe put to right after the semi-final defeat to Glencar Manor?
Well, that's it, of course. Like we have nothing to our name this year, and every year we kind of have something, whether it's a 13-a-side championship or whatever, and like to win another title and retain the under-20 championship will be obviously a big boost, and it'll kind of put a bit of shine to the year, because it kind of did end bad there against Manor in the semi-final. Yeah.
In terms of yourself, Cillian, and your own winter, you mentioned IT Sligo. You were with Leitrim last year. Can we expect to see you in the green and gold this season coming? Do you know anything yourself yet?
Yeah, well, we're getting together now at the moment. We're doing a bit of gym, and we'll be starting pitch sessions now in the next week or two. Or we had 1 or 2 pitch sessions already, but we'll start properly gathering when all the boys come back from. Boys are just away taking breaks, because boys had league finals and boys had we're in the Connacht last weekend as well. So we'll regroup now, and we'll start training fully again, I suppose, in the next few weeks.
What's the mood in the camp like to these initial sessions?
The mood in the camp.
Yep.
It's not too it's just at the moment there's no real. We're getting the gym sessions in, so it's really just about whatever making the gains in there and trying to push that bar on a bit, because I think we were a wee bit behind the last few years in terms of strength and conditioning with Leitrim. So that's kind of the target at the moment. And
I don't know if you've seen the National League fixtures came out today. Derry away and Cork at home in the first 2 rounds of the league. Not exactly the nicest welcome to Division 3.
No, obviously, every team in Division 3 is going to be tough this year. If you look at the fixtures, it's hard to pick one team that you can say, you know what I mean. It's going to be tough, but especially Derry and Cork is going to be a tough start for Division 3. But I think if we just get the right work in now, we can test them teams.
I suppose if you get a good start against those two, nobody else will hold much fear for you later on in the league. So it might be nice to kind of get that welcome to the division up and running early and over and done with. Cillian, thank you so much for joining me. The very best of luck in the defence of your title, but I suppose initially in your game this weekend against Melvin Gaels. The very best of luck to you and your teammates, and of course to everybody taking part at under 20 level this particular year. Thanks very much, Cillian.
Yeah, well, cheers, perfect.
And that, folks, is all we have time for today here on the Sports Preview Show on Leitrim Daily. I've been Breifne Earley. Thank you so much to my guest, Declan Bohan, for his rundown of the year that was for Leitrim GAA. A fairly impressive repertoire of results and achievements through the county on and off the pitch this year. Sean Gallagher of Manor Rangers, thank you for bringing us up to speed with everything that was going on in his world, and also to Cillian McGloin ahead of the start of the Under 20 Championships this weekend. I'll be back tomorrow with a current affair where we'll be looking at recent awards of €3.3 million to the towns of Manorhamilton and Ballinamore with Maureen Martin and Phelim Gurn. Talk to you then.